What is going on, everyone, in the internet world, wherever you're catching us? Appreciate you checking in for another conversation as we continue to talk with franchise executives from around the industry on how they are battling through this awful time in our careers and our personal lives. Hopefully, we're looking for some silver linings that start to happen from cases decreasing. I just saw the news that in New York, at least those leaving the hospital have caught up to those that are entering the hospital. So, that could be a positive sign. But still, we're waiting for the moment that we get to the other side of the increases, because I believe that that's when franchisors will start to look at how do we now work towards that road of recovery. Some very interesting conversations yesterday. Ryan Zink talked about the emotional side of the stock market, that this is not a financially driven thing. It's more of an emotionally driven thing, and we can see some indicators that are positive. Joe Matthews talked about really owning your value proposition right now. That can come from both your cash position as a franchisor and in the way that you're treating your franchisees. So a lot of good conversations yesterday. Today, we're going to have yet another one. So Lauren, I want to welcome you and thanks for spending some time with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So I want to, Jane, personal standpoint, business standpoint, franchise standpoint, what's going on through your mind and your world right now?
Yeah, I think, as good as can be expected. I think the one positive across all of this is that we're all in it together, and we're all dealing with very similar situations and scenarios, and just trying to do the best that we can. Personally, same deal there, just trying to kind of get through, expecting a baby in June. So that adds another fun layer right now, but really just trying to do everything that we can on the professional side to support our franchisees through this really crazy kind of uncharted territory. And really, more than anything on the franchise development side, try to plan for what this looks like on the other end of it.
Do you feel like there's anything you can point to that helps you prepare for this, or is this completely uncharted waters?
Yeah, I think everything to an extent leading up to this point prepares us for these types of scenarios. I come from originally a PR and communications background, so I think that's been very valuable in this with everyone. That's really all we have right now, is gathering information and sharing that with friends, family, franchisees, whomever that may be, to provide the best support and resources, and then really just communicate. It's all we have. Of course, that's all virtual now, but I think that's probably been the biggest benefit for me, as far as being prepared for something like this, is just how we kind of navigate it through communication and staying active with all forms of relationships in our lives.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I'm going to add Charles to our stream now, so he can join in the conversation in a second. But some things that I want to unpack. So your background in PR communications obviously sets you up for at least understanding a model to deal with a crisis. But at the same time, expecting a baby. The complexities that we're battling as human beings is we have our personal lives that are being juggled over here. We have chaos in our work environments, especially in franchising, because we have plenty of franchisees that are going into this territory of not knowing how to preserve their business for the next step. We have the pressures of probably teammates and things that happen internally to make sure that we're being the best teammates. We have pressures from our own financial bandwidth. So it's like we're getting hit from areas because of your ability to manage a crisis based on how your career has shaped you into this point. Does it allow you to have enough distractions to not let that even sink in? Because I think anybody that lets that kind of stuff sink in has to have a pause and like, oh boy, I need to take a deep breath right now. This is a lot. If you're able to stay busy and go through the steps of dealing with a crisis, then maybe you're able to distract your brain enough not to even think about all the craziness that's happening.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt about it. I think we all have at least several of those deep breath pauses throughout the day right now, but I think it definitely has given me a little bit of a distraction, especially from some of the things personally, and of course the upcoming baby and all those things that could let my mind just completely wander otherwise, has definitely provided a little bit of structure and some other things that are, much larger than me and much larger that can really help impact others and help franchisees and family members, whomever that may be, kind of get through this time. So yes, I definitely think that it's helped provide a little bit of stability, I guess.
From a communication standpoint, how are your franchise owners handling this? What are some of those conversations like, and how are you positioning to be there for them during a time like this?
Yeah, I think, we've kind of seen it through, of course, a few different phases throughout this process. And I think that the first phase really was all communication. As we started to see things unfold, and of course, it's evolving differently in every state, and across all three of our brands. We have 600 locations, so there are a lot of moving parts and a lot of different markets, and of course, how it's evolved differently in each of those markets. Really, all three of our models are membership-based models. So while the core of that communication that we were providing them with initially, and really trying to help provide them with those resources, was geared around how do we communicate what's going on to our membership base, and really make sure that we continue to stay engaged with those members as this unfolds. And then, of course, the other side to this is the employee base. And how do we help our franchisees stay in very regular communication with their employee base as these scenarios unfold in each state, in each market? So that was really our first step, is how and what do we provide our franchisees with in terms of navigating that? Every market's different, every scenario is different, every individual's business is different. And so, of course, we want to empower them to be able to handle that the way that they want to handle the scenario, but provide them with all of those tools. So we've really scrambled to get all of our resources internally put together to support our franchisees. It's all that matters, is helping them get through this right now. So the first step was, as it unfolded, building all of those communication tools for them to get through it. And then, of course, as it's continued to unfold, really providing resources to help them get through it financially, right? So making sure that we have all of the rent relief resources, tools and templates for reaching out to landlords, really the navigating of the CARES Act and SBA relief. So we've had very, very regular communication, consistent webinars, of course, individual outreach to our franchisees. Again, really just sharing all of these resources and ensuring that we have a communications plan that's, of course, multi-channel, but focusing on membership base, and then, of course, the employee base, and how we retain both of those fronts throughout this. And then, a big part of where our team has somewhat shifted efforts as we've continued to provide those ongoing resources is really, what does this look like after? What does it look like for us as an organization? But most importantly, what does it look like for our franchisees, right? And how can we help them maintain their membership base, and of course, reactivate and re-engage their membership base? I think that's one positive of the types of models that we work within, is that it is membership. So with the right communication and the right strategy behind it, you can maintain that membership base and potentially pick back up where we left off. And of course, we're in very high demand industries, so we are very confident that we can bounce back from this. There will be a lot of pent up demand in all three of the industries, and I think that's the case across the board in many industries. So we're really hopeful that it'll bounce back quickly. But right now, our focus has really shifted to what does this look like after, and how can we set our franchisees up for the reopen, right? We all can't wait for the moment when we know what that date is and when that will actually happen. But it's, really, what does that heightened sanitation protocol possibly look like? And again, what is the post-opening communication plan? So all of those resources that hopefully we'll be able to deploy sooner than later.
So from a organizational standpoint, when you're evaluating as an executive team, how do we handle this? You have a pile of crap that you're going to have to work through as a franchisor, and at the same time, being in the industries that you're in, both to the consumer and to the franchise buyer, you're in one. On the consumer side, there will be pent up demand. So how do we prepare for the other side of this? And then two, being in the franchise industry, obviously buyers come out of the woodworks when their jobs become turbulent. That's typically a good growth opportunity for brands. At what point, with you guys as an organization, are you saying, all right, we've at least deployed enough resources for triage on the craft side of how do we keep as many members, and how do we treat our staffs, and how do we make sure our franchisees have the resources and understand how things like the CARE Act work? At what point do you guys start saying, all right, now we got to start sliding offensive side, discussing what do we do on the other side of this? At what point in your guys' company did you guys decide to make that transition to that next level?
Yeah, I think it's tough to say, right? It evolves every day, and the situation continues to unfold. I think that definitely the plan post reopening is already in the works, and what that looks like for our franchisees. Quite frankly, I don't see a point in time, any time in the near future, where we're really starting to shift our focus to what the future looks like, because I should say the future looks like for additional growth outside of studio level performance, because truly that's all that matters to us at this point, is getting our franchisees through it and back to hopefully better than where they were when this all started. So I can't wait for the day that we can kind of talk about normal things again, and normal business development and franchise development strategy. But I think for the foreseeable future, 100% of our focus is on our franchisees.
Charles, I think you're muted. Your mic's not coming through. So I'm going to remove you from the stream. Try joining back in. So, all right. So you end up being one of the few brands that is being very clear in saying franchise development is not our focus. Our franchisees are focused. And given most are saying, we're going to focus on our franchise operator, but we have to start thinking about growth again because of the pressures of business. I appreciate that mindset, because ultimately, I mean, my viewpoint has always been those who take care of their franchisees, the franchisees will ultimately help them grow anyway. But it's a good decision, because if you can help find the pathway to showing these franchisees, here's what recovery looks like on the other side of the crisis, then the validation should skyrocket. So I do appreciate that sentiment. Is that even a discussion, or is that just turned into the value of the way that the organization runs?
Yeah, I think that really just comes down to our core values and really what everything in our organization circles around. From a franchise development perspective, I do think that, to your point, of course, these scenarios, of course, we've never experienced anything quite like this, but you generally do tend to see an increase in interest in franchise opportunities. So I do think that will happen naturally, and those who really want to push through the process on their own, we have so many tools and resources that education piece can really be self-guided. So I think that we'll naturally see some growth out of this, and couldn't agree more that growth will come best from just focusing on our franchisees and supporting them through this, and the prospects that want to move forward with any of our brands and any franchise for that matter, will push through, and they'll get to the end without a whole lot of hand holding by our team. And I think probably will appreciate that our focus is on our franchisees.
I would imagine also that franchisees, as they reflect, everybody's being very reflective on decisions that they've made, but at least in a membership model, you might not be able to retain 100% of your customers, because given what's going on in their personal lives, you might have to push the pause button on some memberships. But maybe a silver lining of a business like this is at least you have some sustainable income of people that are saying, yeah, as soon as you're back for business, as long as I have the opportunity to access what I'm paying for, then I'm good. Does that end up being one of the value proposition points as you get to the other side of this on why you would join one of your brands?
Yes, absolutely. And it's been really refreshing to see so many members in all three of our concepts really step up and say, please don't freeze my membership. I want to continue to support you. And I think really what we've gleaned out of that, and this is true in all of our models, and I would say most, is that very engaged franchisees who have a pulse on their business and have a presence in their studios, and whose members really kind of know who they are as an owner, or at least know that there is a human behind this business, are going to come out of this in a much better position, because those members have loyalty to them as an owner, have loyalty to, of course, the brand as well. We definitely have seen a lot of members step up and say proactively, don't freeze my membership, don't cancel it. I'll be able to use my lash extension appointment at some time. I'll be able to get my massage or my workout in at some point. So we've seen a lot of that. But yes, absolutely. I think that's definitely one of the big benefits of any membership model, is that potentially makes it a little bit easier to come out of these types of scenarios, but weather the storm and really maintain that membership base. And then I also think from an innovation perspective, right? New service offerings, new technology, new things that we can continue to provide those members with will also help us come out on the other end of this. Anything that can provide an additional or separate revenue stream for franchisees is helpful during this time. Even if it's smaller than the full membership or incremental, that will help. And I think leading up to this, we've done a phenomenal job on all of those fronts. So hopefully with all of those factors included, we'll be able to weather the storm.
So I think on the other side of this, life will eventually get back to normal. I mean, we've battled in our lives, a September 11th on the world shutting down, or our world shutting down, and recovering. 2008 is a true financial crisis, and it takes time to get to the other side of this. But so getting to this other side, things will come back to normal. And I think one of the benefits also for some of the categories that you're in, like massage, is the labor market got super tight. So it's really nearly impossible to find folks to fill some of the hiring needs that franchisees were looking at. And now I'm starting to hear some of the tone turn towards, well, maybe we'll be able to find a different pool now, because there is going to be a condensing of some businesses, and there's going to be a pent up demand for jobs too. Are any of your franchisees thinking about, obviously, retain the talent that they have, but on the other side of this, how do we make sure if we need additional labor that we're giving value or positioning to these folks that will eventually start looking for jobs?
Yes, absolutely. That's definitely been a topic of conversation. I think, unfortunately, there will be some smaller businesses that close and don't make it out of this. I would say probably that don't necessarily have the support and infrastructure of a franchisor. And then, of course, a lot of self-employed practitioners in all three of our concepts that realize that they really want the support and backing of a solid business model, and not having the expense on their own shoulders of marketing their business and overhead. So yes, we definitely anticipate that the workforce will open up quite a bit. whether that be massage, aesthetic, cosmetology, fitness. I think there will be a lot of people looking for work and looking for that stability. Luckily, we again spend an incredible amount of time, money, resources building the infrastructure for our franchisees to really help them in recruitment efforts, retention efforts, all of the components. All three of our businesses are people businesses. It's the most important factor. So really having that infrastructure already in place to be able to attract and retain an even larger team potentially, again, could be one of the silver linings of all that's happening right now. So yes, I think that's definitely a topic of conversation, as well as the efforts that we're putting forth in terms of building additional tools that will help them attract these particular types of employees that are going to probably come out of this.
Yeah, I think the other thing that could potentially happen out on the other side of this is almost a recategorizing of franchise opportunities. They're very much positioned into health and wellness and restaurant and service. But it'll be interesting to see what happens on the other side. You're going to have essential businesses, are the ones that are truly operating at this time, like a hardware store, grocery stores. So there's going to be a category of essential businesses that seem to have onto a whole new level and friendly. Then you're going to have various channels or layers of recession resistant, which I believe the membership model ends up falling in there, that at least some of your income is protected in the most awful situations possible. And then there's a new definition of brands like the haircut or hairstylist places that can't service right now, that they've always been recession resistant or recession friendly because people still get their haircut. It might be a little bit less frequent, but people would still get their haircut. So I'm going to be very curious to see how the recategorization of investments and risk factor that goes against it. It doesn't mean that people are going to continue to invest in restaurant franchises. That does not go away. But I think it might open up a different mindset that what is considered sexy as a business opportunity could be something else. And it might, the membership model would make me feel not perfect, but at least I know that there is something there to help sustain the team that I've worked hard to build and the business that I've built hard for my community. Any thoughts around that comment?
Yeah, I think it's a great point. I couldn't agree more. I think everyone's going to be looking at everything they do in their life differently. And I think another category that may come out of this too is kind of the group category versus one-on-one, because of course, with social distancing and more importantly, large groups being a bit of a factor going forward, I think potentially people are going to think about those types of settings in a different way, unfortunately. And it breaks my heart because there are so many businesses that fall in that category as well. Group fitness, even the other types of recreational businesses that are in a group setting. So I think that's part of it too, is the privacy and one-on-one experience going to also create its own category separate of kind of the group space. And I think within each of those categories, we'll probably see a different progression of how quickly consumers adapt back or adopt those services back into their routine, and how they view them as potentially safer over the other. But yes, I couldn't agree more. I think that everyone's going to be looking at categories within franchise opportunities and even as a consumer differently coming out of this.
Yeah, great point. I mean, two follow-up comments. One is obviously with the Amazing Lash concept, the way that you guys have built out of creating individual rooms. At the time, it's been a point of differentiation in the way that, but now that might actually fit in well on what happens post this. We have a brand that was on here, Wing Zone. They do first-party delivery. They don't use the Grubhubs or the Uber Eats. And their sales, they're up single digits, but they're actually up during a time like this. So a very, very small gap of businesses that have taken off. But I think you're right. I mean, I happen to play basketball twice a week. And I will say, even right before the shutdown in Illinois, I had basketball coming up on that Sunday, and we were work from home optional at that point. And I'm like, I don't know that I want to risk it. So, and that could be a statement that doesn't have, you know, scientific backing, because we don't know much about what this is or what the cure is or the timeline.
Right.
But I do think there's going to be pause on the other side of this, that, you know, you go in a restaurant, before you even sit down, you're going to go wash your hands. That some people did, people didn't. So you're going to go wash your hands. There's probably going to be hand sanitizers at the tables. The menus might shift, knowing how many hands have touched that. Like, there's going to be so many things from the post-panic side of this that is going to change the game. But it's also going to create opportunity, that brands that can figure out a way to work within the parameters of how the public is behaving could give an opportunity for a franchise brand too. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think there's definitely going to be a lot of opportunity that comes out of it. And again, the brands that innovate and try to fill that niche are the ones that will probably come out on top. But yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how everything unfolds on the other end, and yeah, how things are recategorized and what this all looks like.
Yeah, Lauren, I greatly appreciate the conversation. Obviously, everybody on the back side of this is going through some just the ability to talk with you, and obviously you're carrying such a positive attitude about what this could look like. I think that collective mindset is how every human being, no matter if you're in franchising or business or whatever, this is how we get to the other side, is trying to have that positive mindset that there will be another side. We just don't know when it is. So greatly appreciate you spending some time with me. Hope our audience got some value out of this. And then if you have any follow-up questions for Lauren, go ahead and post it in the chat boxes on the Facebook feeds, and I'll make sure she gets it. Thanks, Lauren.
Thanks, Nick.